Hello everyone, my name is Sunil Hwang and I'm going to teach Early Buddhism this term, and unfortunately the first week of this lecture I have to meet you not through face to face in the classroom but through online, mainly because I'm working also as a dean in the College of Buddhism in Dongguk University. In Taiwan, there are very big, huge Buddhist association, a very big temple called the Po Temple. The temple has got 5 universities in Taiwan and America. They also build up a kind of a Buddhist university association all around the world. So the first week of the March, we are going to gather together in Kaohsiung, in Taiwan, at southern part of the Taipei, the southern part of the island. The city called Kaohsiung has got Nanhua University. So Nanhua is founded by Po Buddhist order, or Po Buddhist temple, we can say. Po is very famous for its insistence on the humanistic Buddhism. In Chinese, it is called 인간불교, or in English, we usually call it as humanistic Buddhism, which means Buddhism has got lots of things people like, a kind of a peace of mind, kind of a calming down of our mental stress, or kind of a relaxing attitude toward the surroundings, and also try to be part of the nature, be part of the old environment, and every living creatures living all together, simultaneously. That sort of thing was very good, but in China for a long time, that sort of idea circulated only inside of the temple, not in the society. So Sen Yen, one of the leader of Po San Temple, insist these good values. It is pity to share only among the Buddhist monk in Po San Temple. So we should let those values to know among all the members of the society. So Buddhist order enter into the society and living together with the society, make the society better than before through the kind of effort of Buddhist monks and the Buddhist order, and so that's the Po San humanistic Buddhism. Very briefly, if I say, they're going to have a kind of all the university gatherings, and I was invited as one of the speakers on the forum. So unfortunately, I have to go there and give an oral presentation, and maybe I will coming back on Thursday or Friday. I can coming back. So I think this week we cannot see each other, but next week definitely we can see. So we are going to have Tuesday and Wednesday. So Tuesday the 12th, we are going to see face to face in the classroom. Unfortunately, first week of the lecture, I can only see you online. But I think this is okay because first day we only do some short introduction, and second day we usually give some short kind of a short summary about the lecture. So Early Buddhism, you are welcome to the class, because if you want to understand the Buddhism, if you want to know more about the Buddhism, you need a firm foundation through which you can develop various kind of Buddhism or applied Buddhism or meditation and so on. But in order to understand various kind of Buddhism in the contemporary society, you need a kind of a starting point, a kind of a firm foundation through which you can expand your knowledge. So what is the firm foundation? And that's the early Buddhism, I have to say. So early Buddhism, we usually talk about the beginning of the Buddhism, how the Buddha, the founder, lived his life, in connection with the society, in connection with the religious movement during that time, in connection with the kind of a method he was using in order to become, what can I say, enlightened, or in order to have a awakening experience, we usually call it inside of Buddhism. I'm going to talk about it step by step. So in the class of early Buddhism, I'm going to talk about the background of the Buddhism. So how Buddhism first developed, what kind of environment, circumstances Buddhism or early Buddhists come up against in the society, and what sort of people or what kind of language they use, at the very first time. And then I will try to show you a life story of the Buddha, because a life story of the Buddha is very important in Buddhism, because mainly because the Buddha, as far as I understand, the Buddha was not a kind of a person who tried to show himself to other people. I'm a superhuman. I'm a good people. I'm a kind of a leader and so on. A kind of a show off. I don't think the Buddha prefer that kind of image inside of him. He tried to be neutral. He tried to be a kind of leader, to show the way to be free of all the suffering and all the desire of the society. So he is the one who showed the way to go there. He cannot do, he cannot make them to go there. He is the one who showed the way. So entire early Buddhist canon where the Buddha was talking about, he never tried to show himself as a kind of a god, or as a kind of a superhuman. Sometimes, we can have a feeling, but usually he tried not to be. So in early Buddhism, he was seldom talking about his personal life. How was his early life? How he developed a kind of idea and so on. So apart from his experience relating to his pursuit to the awakening or enlightenment, he was silent. So the life story of the Buddha, I have to say, is the kind of a invention of Indian Buddhists for a long time. So we usually say, in order to make the full coverage of life story of the Buddha to building up, it takes 900 years to build up. So at first we know very little about a life story of the Buddha, and then later Buddhists add some part inside of the story, and then story become bigger and bigger and bigger, and make a kind of a complete story from the birth to death, to make them almost 900. So during the 900 years, Indian Buddhists put some kind of a story. They thought it is important, they put it there. So during the 900 years, life story of the Buddha become developed as a perfect introduction to the Buddhism. So nowadays, we become Buddhist when we heard the Four Noble Truths. Suffering, desire, cessation, and the way to reach the cessation, and so on. Four Noble Truths. Sometimes we become very abstract. Very abstract teaching of the Buddha. We become Buddhist. But that's the modern development, mass education, a classroom where full of people we teach. That was not the picture during the early period. That's hardly occur. So in India, if we think about 2,000 years ago, only tiny number of people in the society can read and write. So the knowledge is kind of exclusive, a kind of means through which some special class like Brahmins, priest class, can live through the knowledge, if they have. So I have to say, there are lots of occasion, but the knowledge become available all around the world in the society. Anyone who wants to know, they can get the knowledge. That's the modern development, especially when we think about India. So in the old days, Indian people become Buddhist not through the knowledge, not through the abstract doctrine or something like that. They knew Buddhism through the stories, the story of the Buddha, life story of the Buddha, or life story of the his most important disciples, such as Sariputta or Moggallana or something like that. So they become also very important. Or sometimes the Buddha's relationship with the king Bimbisara, King Ajatasattu, and so on. Through the story after story after story after story, they become Buddhist, I think, in the older days. So in Buddhism, we develop not only the current Buddha's life story of the Buddha, we also develop former life story of the Buddha, because in India we believe samsara. Samsara means rebirth. So people die, not just once, but we die repeatedly. Die repeatedly means we were born repeatedly. So endless life we are going to live. So in Pali Buddhist tradition, Southern Buddhism developed 548 or something like that, former life story of the Buddha, where the Buddha was born not just as a human being, but also as animals or God. The Buddha was born as a dog. The Buddha was born as a monkey or golden deer or God Indra, something like that. Those stories develop, and each story has got some lessons to show our leader, the one who show us the way to become peace, who show the way to reach the state where there is no more suffering, no more desire, no more passion and hatred and delusion. He was special because when he was born as a dog, something like that, that sort of story keep repeat again and again, and through the story, young generation or kind of people in the Indian society become Buddhist, I think, in the older days. So I'm going to talk about life story of the Buddha. Talk just a little bit about the Jataka because I don't have enough time, and then I will talk about how the Buddha become enlightened. which means we usually call it as meditation. So nowadays, meditation is a big business. In America, for example, some kind of a meditative consulting, psychiatry, meditation, applied meditation psychiatry or something like that become very popular, which was called healing nowadays. Very, very popular in America, in many places. I saw some of my friends doing that. But this is an early Buddhism class, so I try to show you what kind of a method the Buddha used to become enlightened. So what kind of a thing we can learn from him, and what sort of meditation he tried, and in connection with the current, meditation technique. We are living in the world where there are so many different, meditation tradition here. Some Tibetan Buddhists try to try to meditate through visualization meditation, or some Southern Buddhists try vipassana, meditation through the knowledge of anicca, dukkha, anatta, something like that. Or in Korea, Joge order value high on their own meditation, which originally start from China, from Dahui during the Song Dynasty, and it became very popular in Korea. It is called the Ganhwasan, so contemplative meditation technique through the paradoxical questions. So there are apart from them so many different healing and mindfulness and sati and satipatthana, so many different things are nowadays available. So I try to explain what could be the origin of Buddhist meditation. What's the difference between Buddhist meditation and the yoga or different kind of tradition? That I will talk about it. And then I will talk about how the early Buddhist Sangha established it. And then, the Sangha, the community of Buddhists, if it can continue integrated, it might be very nice, but that's impossible because the need of people, the requirement of society keep changing. So Buddhism respond. So Buddhist order also respond, and then eventually it separate. So we usually call 18 Buddhist school, 18 Buddhist sect occur, around 200 or 300 years after the Buddha's parinirvana, the departure of the Buddha, something like that. So what kind of issues and why Buddhist Sangha separated, I will talk about it. And then we have a different kind of movement. Early Buddhism, there was no difference between so-called Mahayana or Hinayana, or how can I say, East Asian Buddhism and Southeast Asian Buddhism. But somehow, around 300 or 400 years after the Buddha's departure, a new kind of Buddhism occurred in India. Maybe India or northwestern India, or sometimes we suspect it might be Central Asia. That was called the Mahayana Buddhism. And Mahayana Buddhism moved from India through Silk Road to China, and then it became mainstream Buddhism in China, Korea, and Japan. So it became East Asian Buddhism. And then early Buddhism moved from there to the south, to the Sri Lanka, and from Sri Lanka it moved to the Southeast Asia. So sometimes we call it as Hinayana. We no longer use the word Hinayana. Anyway, this Buddhism is more on traditional Buddhism. We call it Theravada or Southeast Asian Buddhism. So two kind of Buddhism occur. So I'm going to talk briefly about difference between the two tradition and what could be the reason why they initially separated and so on. And then finally, if I have time, I'm going to talk about origin of Mahayana Buddhism and its development. So that's my plan to carry on this early Buddhism class. So this class, I'm going to give you the basic idea, basic things you should know about the Buddhism, through which you can expand to various kind of Buddhist tradition, not only among the medieval period, but also the contemporary Buddhism. So my aim is to help you to understand Buddhism better, through this lecture. There is no text, but I usually use this one, History of Indian Buddhism by Etienne Lamotte. It's a huge book, but this is among the best one. Korean student can get the Korean translation of this book, Indo Bulgyosa 1-2, 2 volumes. I put it in your syllabus already, but it is impossible to read everything. So there is no main text you should buy. I will give you the handout through which you can see. And I also develop a kind of YouTube channel through which I can provide you some necessary additional lectures to understand our classroom. Evaluation is very important. So I usually do the same. 20% in attendance, 20% in assignment, 2 pages report, and the midterm exam and end-term exam. So attendance, if you attend at least 3/4 of the lecture, I will give you the full score, full academic credit. So it's not that important. Report, I will try to have 4 levels, 100 point, 95, 90, 85, 80, something like that. So it can give you some kind of variation, but the most important thing is 2 exams, midterm exam and end-term exam. You should remember. So through that way, I'm going to give you evaluation. And one more thing, if you have any question, you can send me a text message or email. But the best way you can do is to put your question in the e-class question and answer section, because there are so many emails. So once it just pass through, I usually forget about it. So text message as well, not easy, in any circumstance. So the best way you can do is to put your question in the e-class question and answer section. So I think brief introduction of this early Buddhism class, maybe the Tuesday. So for Wednesday, I will put YouTube recording of the one of the early Buddhism class, where I was talking about language in India, because language is very important and very interesting. You should learn about Sanskrit and the Indo-European language, or Ural Altaian language, something like that. So I will put that in the second day, which means a Wednesday class. I will put it there. So I'm so sorry about that. I couldn't see you face to face in the first week, but from the second week we are going to do study together. Okay, thank you very much.